So let's have a look at some of the many questions that we've had, and I just want to pull out a couple of key things that are coming up again and again that we can help you with right here today. So this is some great free coaching, make the most of it, and as I say, I think it will answer some of the very questions that you have and some of the very common questions that I come across. First thing is I would say, you're not alone. There's 1,828 comments have been left on this blog page alone, and this is from the Career Psychometrics website /buzz, which is where I sort of leave that site dedicated purely to career development because it's such a big area for people. Okay, let me go and look at some of the statements, some of the things that people are asking. I suspect that you have similar questions, if not identical questions and scenarios as well, so we'll try and address some of them here. So if you get any questions, any issues, and you want to see your career accelerate and go further and faster, then just keep watching. Okay, so the very first question, now actually I'm just including this because this was something that Stephen just added the other day there, and I just thought it was very nice of him. I have to confess, this was not me, even my own modesty would not allow me to write such a nice thing, but it was very much appreciated, Stephen. And I say I'm delighted to give lots and lots of advice and some free stuff away, and it's really nice, not just for me of course, but for my whole team here. I say People Apps is a whole team of people are constantly working away at the background here to make sure that you get the service that you need to try and help you with whatever it is you're working on. Today we're specifically talking about careers, but we obviously work in a lot of other areas too. So thank you very much, Stephen. That was very kind of you. Much appreciated, and I say it did make everybody's day here in the office. Okay, so I think we'll actually just start with Rachel, a classic scenario where Rachel's, essentially a mum coming back into the workplace, possibly after some time, and she's got into sales and looking for a way forward. So it's a big restart, a big reboot, and this is a very common scenario, particularly with mums returning back to work after the sort of maybe the kids are up and older and moving on. So getting back into the workplace is quite daunting. It's quite challenging for people, and of course, it might be many years since you've worked, in an office somewhere or gone out to work, and certainly a few years possibly since you've been to an interview. So a couple of things that I would say right off the bat is that it won't really go against you, and you shouldn't think that it would. So you're going to be employed by other humans, and humans understand that people have to raise children and go home, and they've probably done the same thing. So don't think of it too bad. Don't feel that you'll be judged badly or harshly because of it, because as I say, you're going to be interviewed with people who have probably done exactly the same thing. So always remember that you are dealing with humans in the whole recruitment process. Now, what I will say, of course, is that the recruitment process as we know it is deeply flawed. And for anyone who is doing something a little out of the ordinary, and a returning mum is a little out of the ordinary, then I would suggest that you go about it slightly differently, and don't just rely on the old-fashioned way of recruitment, battering out CVs to job ads. I think you need to get a little more creative about it, and that would be my recommendation there. Now, what Rochelle is actually saying here is that she's then got into sales. Now, sales is a great place to get into for those that can, and I think a lot more people could than they realise. There are always sales jobs. Everybody's always looking for salespeople. There's never enough good salespeople in the world. So if you've even got a notion that sales might be okay for you, you're picking a pretty healthy, pretty good place to work, because there's always a demand, always exceeds the supply when it comes to sales. So I think Michelle's making quite a good choice here, and sales roles come in a huge variety of flavours. Chances are, if you've got any notion for sales, then you'll probably find one that works for you. And what you need to do at this point, if Rochelle decides to stay in sales, then she has to start thinking about what type of sales role actually suit her personality. And there's quite a broad range of options there. But if you get the wrong one, sales can be miserable. But if you get the right one, sales can be not only a big earner, but actually great fun and a great way of earning an income. What was Karen saying here? Okay, so Karen's basically telling us the story about not getting a response. Um, no, agencies, employers rarely send out rejection letters or notification or any kind of acknowledgement. I say the system is so deeply flawed, it's completely ignorant. It seems to be accept behaviour that wouldn't be tolerated in any other aspect of our business. And I do spend a lot of time bashing the ears of employers. We have a whole training program on how you should actually go about doing your recruitment. And it's a big difference from what I preach and teach in that course from what people actually do. And I think it's disgraceful. And they really need to get their act together because it's doing their business a lot of harm. So they don't. So really, the key thing here, Karen, is never take it personally that you don't hear back from people. Um, what I would say is, again, it's the old-fashioned recruitment process of look through the job boards, batter out your CV and job application and hope for the best, is deeply, deeply flawed. And it's just not a system and an approach you want to rely on. You really need to go about it in a very different way. So that would be my recommendation. That's really what three-step system is all about. It shows you that different way, an alternative, so that you're not just sitting there waiting to see if you've bought the lucky lottery ticket and someone deems to actually respond to you. I say it offends me at a very deep level for all sorts of reasons, but the trick here is not to play that game. Go about it a different way. Don't play the game by their rules. You've got to play it differently, and that's when you start to get a much better response. Okay, we'll move on because there's other things I want to cover. Richard has actually raised a couple of great points here, and something that affects an awful lot of people. So he's saying I'm Richard, I'm a retired firefighter, applied for a few jobs but not even had an interview. He's aged 50 and is his age against him? Well, actually, Richard, there's a couple of things. The first thing I will say is that the standard recruitment process, the recruitment system is absolutely ageist. I don't care what anyone says, everyone's experience, and if you look through these 1800 comments, you'll see time and time again that that is the experience. And it doesn't matter, doesn't seem to matter what laws we put in place. For some reason, the recruitment process itself is ageist. I don't think the individuals in the system are actually ageist because, let's be honest, most of them are over 40. But the system itself seems to be ageist. So it's one of the reasons that I had to redo and release the 5th edition of the three-step system, because so many great people who are really, really talented have got so much to offer, but unfortunately they're over the age of 40 and the recruitment system, the existing system, is letting them down. Worse than that, it's also letting down the employers who are losing out on some great people because of the stupid system that they use. And therefore, as I say, yes, at 50, absolutely, ageism is definitely hitting you, Richard. The way around that, of course, is use the three-step system, go about it a very different way. But actually, Richard, you've got another issue here which is even bigger, I suspect, and that is that you were a professional firefighter and you've just retired, which means the chances are the jobs that you're applying for are completely different from firefighting, and therefore you're making a significant career change. Now, what you have to remember here, Richard, is that the standard traditional recruitment process simply doesn't tolerate career change. They do not believe in transferable skills. And essentially, you get eliminated at the very first fence because they have a brief and the brief must be met. And if you don't meet the brief, i.e., you don't have the right experience in the right area doing the exact same job, you see, what they're really after, Richard, is Joe left last week. I just want Joe, and I can't get Joe give me his twin brother, and I can't get his twin brother give me his sister, but I just want Joe back. That's really what employers and the recruitment process system tends to do and tends to operate like. And therefore, when you come in saying, well, I'm nothing like Joe, however, I've got these other skills and experience, and I think these transfer, and I can do a great job here once I've figured out what you're trying to do. Just doesn't work that way, Richard. That's just not how this basic system is. However, we had to find a way around this. There's no point just bumping our gums and moaning about it. And that was why we developed the three-step system, which looks at the whole psychology of what's wrong with the existing recruitment process and how can we go about doing it differently. And how can we ensure that if you want to make a career change, which many, many people do, then you've got a step-by-step process that allows you to do that. Now, when you're a retired firefighter, then you're pretty much obliged to make a career change. It's not a choice. You kind of have to give up what you were doing for many years, probably quite happily, and find something new and something different. Now, I think that you should be able to take all of that fantastic experience as a firefighter into a new world with you, and some people really appreciate it, but you need to get over the first one or two fences before you get that chance to sit down with the right people who will actually love the stories that you can tell and the experience that you can bring. And this is true of many, many people over the age of 40. The trouble is, I say, nobody's letting you in past the first gate, and therefore you never get the opportunity to shine with the right people who actually really will appreciate what you're doing. So that would be my suggestion. To say three-step system will show you. Step 2 is all about how to get interviews with the right people and to get past those initial gates and hurdles so that you don't get thrown in the bin in the very first sifting. Okay, what's Caroline saying here? Well, actually, she'd love to change role. And she has a fear of being pigeonholed. Well, excellent point. Again, Caroline, this is leading on from what I was saying to Richard there. Being pigeonholed, that's exactly what the standard, traditional, old-fashioned recruitment process that everyone uses does. It's all about pigeonholing you. It doesn't want to let you out your box. It doesn't like letting you out your box. It upsets it terribly. They all get terribly upset. And essentially you don't get past the first sifting because pigeonholing is what it's all about. So you can comply with that, which essentially sees you more or less in the same job the rest of your life, or you can find an alternative approach. That's why we did the three-step system. So step 1 will help you figure out what it is you should be doing. And I think this is actually the biggest mistake and possibly the hardest part of it all. But Caroline, once you know that, okay, I don't really like this isn't for me, well, that's step 1, and that's great, that's a real help, that's that first step, if you like. But then what you really need to do is figure out what you were simply born to do. Don't settle for less than, don't just pay the mortgage, don't just settle for a job. Actually, look at it, research it, figure it out as to what you were really meant to do. Where can you make a huge impact to make a big difference and feel that in your life that what you do is really, really worthwhile. And this is achievable. Many, many people achieve this every week. And therefore, I believe that everybody should at least have a go at finding that. Why not? Why would you settle for less? So Caroline, I do encourage you to find what you really need to do, and that's step 1 in the three-step system. And of course, in step 2, it's how you get interviews with the people who actually matter and allow you to step outside of the pigeonhole and the box that the system puts you in and allow you to flourish in a new area. And that's really what we need to deal with there. Okay, I'll quickly, I'm not going to do all of these, obviously there's thousands of them, but I just wanted to pull out some things that I felt were quite generally applied to many, many people. This is actually just a student of mine who's just saying that she's already started the course and she's loving it. Videos make sense, thanks you very much, Barora, that's really kind of you. As I say, if you have on the course already, you have started, do leave in the comments, do send us notes, we love feedback, and we love your opinions, and we do modify on an ongoing basis, and we do take on changes. So Barora there's lots of wee dialogue there with me, which is great. So Doreen said 4 interviews, no offers, desperately need an offer. Yeah, there's one thing I'd mention here, Doreen. This is, please don't take this the wrong way, but it's something worth noting because I see this when I sit at the other side of the desk. I see it's a really, really, really common mistake that people make, right? But bear with me in this one when I tell you this, and I say this with all kindness, and I say it only to help you out, Doreen. But the reality is, the propensity to offer you a job does not vary proportionally with your desperate need of that job. Right? What I'm saying here is, I know that you probably really need the job, and I know that maybe you really, really want the job. But that has absolutely no bearing, has no influence on their propensity and likelihood of offering you the job. And people often get this confused, and they play this card when they come to an interview, and actually what it does, Doreen, is it has the opposite effect. And essentially, I know this is just, there's some warped psychology going on here, but there is a lot of psychology at play in the whole, particularly in the whole interview scenario, which is really what I deal with in step 3 of the 3-step system, where we get into the nuts and bolts of the actual psychology that's going on in that room. And it'll blow your mind when you really start to see what people are actually thinking and how they're thinking. And I can show you how you can turn that around. But the one thing that really doesn't serve you when you go into an interview is to need the job. What you really want to be in an interview is not to need the job, not to want the job. You really want to lower those psychological impulses, if you like. You want to be professional and enthusiastic and keen. However, it's a thin line between all of that and desperate, and that's the word you've used here, is desperately need an offer. And if any of that comes across at all, then it actually takes away from the likelihood of them giving you the job. They tend to offer the job to people who don't really want it. There's some bizarre psychology going on here, but if I was to glibly phrase it, that's what's going on, Doreen. So, top tip, when you go into your next interview, cool the engines, just rein it all back in and kind of pretend that, well, let them persuade you. Don't you feel that you need to do all the persuading here. Let them kind of be worthy of you. And what you start to do, and I'd show you this in great detail, exactly how to do this, and it's about managing the interview and how you take control of the interview, right? And you really have to, Doreen, you have to, from the first minute you walk into that room, you have to snatch it out of their hands and take control of the interview. And I'll show you how you do that in step 3. It doesn't matter where you sit in the personality spectrum, it doesn't matter what kind of personality, what your experience is, I'll show you how you can do that. But the key thing is there, and if I leave you nothing else here, right here today, is cool those engines, make them want you, don't show them that you really want them in the job. Okay, so that's my top tip for today, and let's just see if we've got a couple more things. What have we got? Oh, it's 20 minutes already here. Right, one more couple of wee things. Let me see if I can find one or two more. Somebody's just saying, looking forward to the new version. I mean, we have been running this programme for, I say, about 5 years. I think I launched it more or less the month before we got married over in France. It was a very lovely time, and lots of people shared in that online with us. But we've had a major, the 5th edition is an absolute ground-up major rewrite. So even if you've had and been a member before and you've actually done the original 3-step system, I would recommend that, and you're still looking for your ideal job, and that's absolutely fine. Sometimes it's a lifelong work, but if you are, then I would suggest actually you come and visit it again and join us for another few months and try it out, because it's such a complete rewrite. This really is a different program from the original 3-step system. Borrowing, of course, from the basic concepts, but as I say, a total rewrite to work in the new age. And there's been some really big changes in the last 3 years in the recruitment process, one in particular, and that was one of the reasons I forced my hand to actually go and take 3 months off and rewrite the 3-step system, because there was such big stuff there that was needing done. Okay, so Chris here saying he's had down to 100% behavioural questions, he'd been prepared, he didn't dry up. Well, that's all good. And he was told in the feedback that he got one question slightly wrong. It's a question about time management. Okay, right, the first thing I'm going to say here, Chris, is you know what, see this concept of feedback and what they say, ignore it. Ignore it all. They talk utter bollocks and drivel. You really cannot pay any attention to any feedback that anyone ever gives you from interviews. And the reason for that is they will never tell you honestly what they think. They can't afford to. The chances of them getting dragged into court, getting all sorts of hassles and legal complaints and issues is a minefield. So all they will say will be drivel and platitudes and nonsense. So ignore all feedback on job interviews. They cannot tell you what they're actually thinking. And so many people are beating themselves up over daft things that some interviewer has fed back to them. I have to say, it's ridiculous. So don't let it be you. You don't need to take that on board. It's absolute nonsense. And is there a hidden agenda? There's always a hidden agenda. The agenda is so well hidden that even the people who are delivering it don't know where it is. So, Chris, as I say, the system is so broken. I know everybody thinks that they're dealing with professional, proper, sensible, grown-up, responsible, respectful people when they're applying for jobs. Sadly, that's rarely the case, and mostly you're dealing with a deeply flawed, broken system which is so beyond repair and abused and ridiculous that you would be horrified if you saw what I see at the other side. So don't play their game, play your game, play it differently. That's what three-step system will do for you. Okay, anything, let me see here. Looking at, sorry, I'm just reading this. I think Laura's was a bit more complicated. Okay, well, one thing that she is doing is she's overwhelmed with all the information. And yeah, I think what if I had to pull out this, right at the bottom line here, this is exhausting. She just wants to find something because trying to find, what, Laura, is absolutely true. And I think everybody feels this way, that trying to figure out what you want to do and be and what you should do and go ahead and do it, it's really, really difficult. I mean, it messes with your head something off, never mind when you get the job. Now, the other thing, of course, that happens is that you read job adverts, you believe what they say, you turn up, you believe what the interviewer people say, you get the job, you walk in the door, and the job is nothing like what you thought it would be or what they promised. And before you know it, you're hating the job because you know what? They've absolutely told you a whole pack of lies about what it actually is. And this goes on all the time. So it's a minefield that you wouldn't believe. Now, in the three-step system, particularly step one, we spend an awful lot of time helping you figure out what actually really matters to you. See, there are certain things, Laura, that if they're missing, and then you will never be able to actually be in your ideal job. And if you've got to have your work life, your working job has to be in harmony with your core personality if you're really to enjoy any sustained success, if it's not to become stressful. So for each of us, depending on our personality type, there are certain things that absolutely have to be present. And the trouble is that many of us ignore all of that and we just look at my skills match these skills. Well, this looks like a shooty in, easy. Well, it rarely is, because it's the human stuff, it's the personality stuff, it's the stuff that drives you nuts. Lots and lots of the petty stuff will be the reasons why it works or why it doesn't work. So you've got to, first of all, appease and meet your psychological needs. You have to place yourself in an environment and around people that actually work in harmony with your core nature, your very personality. And once you do that, everything else can come together, the skill sets, all that. It's easy to learn stuff. We can all learn stuff. Humans are extremely clever at that. But you need to put yourself in a very nurturing environment, the one that works for you and your personality. Now, that chances are that's going to be very different from what would work for me or for someone else. So this is where the challenge is. Of course, it's really difficult to do that, and to try and do that without any kind of structure or framework or guidelines, I would say it really is a lottery ticket. You're just playing kerplunk and you're hoping that the marbles all don't hit the deck when you pull it out. It's Jenga for jobs, and you don't want to be playing Jenga for jobs. What you want to do is know exactly what is right for you and why, and you can look through a checklist, and this is what essentially step one is going to do for you. It will ask you the right questions. It will force you to think about the right things, tick the right box, create your own absolute checklist, and that way before you apply for a job whether it's going to work, going to be right for you or not, and you'll know what questions to ask to make sure it's absolutely right, so that you don't take jobs that just simply are not. And that's the trouble. I think most people are turning up at the wrong interviews and then turning up at the wrong jobs. They're accepting things about a job that actually would never be suitable for them, but they're saying, yeah, that's fine. Actually, it's not fine, never would be fine. And they're settling for it. And then they get in, and you're not in there a few weeks before you go, oh, this is rubbish, I hate this is crap. But unfortunately, people are agreeing to things that they should never agree to. And The three-step system was there to help people avoid that scenario, because people are wasting 10 and 20 and 30 years of their life in the wrong place. And a small change in the work itself, a small change, put them into just the right environment, would be the whole difference between loving what you do and finding it fulfilling and hating Monday mornings. So Laura, it is really tricky. That's why the three-step system's there. And you can use that on your own, or you can also get coaches in. I have trained other coaches who can hold your hand, take you through it, and be there and work with you one-to-one. So you don't need to do it all on your own, but for God's sake, do take the courses, get some help. Job hunting, career development is the most complex thing. And I can't believe that the number of people who actually just expect to be able to do it, expect just to batter off some CVs and land their dream job. I mean, honestly, the naivety is beyond me. You would invest the money in all sorts of other areas of your life. You would go to university for years, spending thousands, and yet you wouldn't spend a little money and a little time to figure out what the hell it is you should be doing in your life, how to get interviews, and how to actually pass interviews. That's what three-step system does. So I know that you're looking for something else. You are looking for shortcuts. You want a quicker, easier, more reliable way of developing your career. You'll find it in the three-step system, and what the three-step can't do for you, I can introduce you to coaches that we've trained that can help you through that program and support you and make it all happen. But this is a really complex thing. Don't be too hard on yourself to expect that you should be able to know all this. It's taken me years and years of research and study to be able to pull this together, so that you don't have to. And this is for everybody. I think everybody's in the same boat, Laura. It is complex. Make it easy on yourself. Get some help. Okay, I think that's all I'm going to do today. I could go on. As you can see, we've got literally hundreds of comments. Have a look through them. I do answer many of the comments in writing, so you'll see some thoughts that I have. But I think, as I say, it is now time of taking half an hour here. And as I say, I really do wish you the best. If you haven't booked your place on the three-step system, then you really are just about out of time. So I would urge you to go and do that right away before they're all gone, and before, as I say, if it's probably on special offer right now. If it is, then grab it before the discount period ends. As I say, I'm not sure exactly when you're watching this video, but if it's still on special offer and it's still on discount, then go grab a place while you can, because as soon as this period ends, it goes back to its normal retail price, and that's a huge jump. You'll love the course. If you have any questions, send an email to me, get in touch, raise a ticket. We are here, we're very, very real. We've been doing this for years, and we've helped lots and lots of people, and we know that we can help you. So have a look through the rest of those comments. You might find some more career advice, all for free. And feeling that, let's come and let's spend some time together. Let's do this properly. You deserve to find your ideal job. It's not a privilege, it's your absolute basic right. You owe it to yourself to do what you were simply born to do. I can help you find it. I can help you get there. I can help you through the process. I just need you to step up, and let's do this together. Okay, I'm Martin Gibbons. Click on the big button below. Join me on the other side, and I look forward to working with you and sharing this amazing journey that you're about to go on.